has Italy shifted to the far right? Well, you may have seen in the news that many newspapers, important newspapers, like the Financial Times, the Economist, the New York Times, have said Italy has elected the most fascist person and party after Mussolini's time. Well, these are big declarations, and if we look at what happened, Brothers of Italy, the party of Giorgia Meloni, the new leader of the right coalition, is the party in Italy that is at the most far right, and there are many documents at the internet that demonstrate that actually this leader has defended, not only not accused and said that was a bad part of history, but has defended Mussolini.
Moi, je crois que Mussolini, c'était un bon politicien. C'est-à-dire que tout ce qu'il a fait pour l'Italie.
So she was very able, actually. In this election wasn't about Mussolini and fascism, of course. They didn't present themselves as that. And that's one of the reasons why they got so many votes. Because if they presented themselves as extremists, well, they would have not got that majority. They won with 26% of the votes. For that party, in the parliament before this election, they just had 7 or 9%, right? So it's a big change. It's 3 times, if not more, where they were 4 years ago. But still, it's a vote of protest. It is. And I would compare it actually to previous votes in parties like the five-star movements, the Liga, and now it's the Brothers of Italy. And it's always the same. It's just a lot of people are angry about how they live, the current situation. They blame the government. They think that it's fault of the system and politicians. And so they always try to find a new party that yells and tells that it's the other people's fault. And a massive strategic, a massive tactic that they adopted, this Brothers of Italy, probably, it's not just the tactic, it's the strategy. It's the pattern they have been followed since ever. It's do not make government alliances with anybody. And even the most inclusive, and this is the most important step, the most inclusive political alliance around the government, so government coalition, was made for Mario Draghi 1.5 years ago. And every party took part outside of Giorgia Meloni's party. Well, everyone was in outside of them. And despite Mario Draghi doing a good job, the overall economic environment, mainly due to the war in Ukraine and inflation, which is partly due to the war in Ukraine as well, well, it deteriorated. Inflation is here. It's not as high as it is in the US, but it's still at 5-6% CPI. So actually, in reality, we know that it's a bit more. And above all, gas prices. Like people are scared for the winter if they're gonna be able to pay for the bills or not. And it's of course not fault of the government if that happens. It's just so big macroeconomic systems behind it that the government of Italy can't of course influence the course of events that much. But still, it was blamed on that government coalition. And the only people who were part of it were the brothers of Italy. And so this strategy proved massively winning. So here we are, electing Giorgia Meloni. And her victory is quite scary if you see it as a far-right movement, because they literally are the first party in every region outside of 3 regions. And when they're not the first, they're the second. So, of course, we're talking about relative majority. Their coalition obtained almost 50%, but not 50% in the parliament, in both the chambers, the Senate and the chamber. So what's going to happen in the future, in the near future? So they're struggling to find some important advisors to the governments, especially around economic issues, because the most famous and the most prestigious ones, they've always been associated with moderate parties. So they lack a little bit on that. And an important message that they will send to the markets all around the world is, who will they choose as Minister of the Treasury, Minister of the Economy and Finance. So that's going to be an important step toward how this government will present itself. And of course, we all hope that their promises, crazy promise of sending people, lowering retirement age at 60, and giving free nursery school to every kid, to increase the birth rates, a lot of free stuff. Of course, they're not going to be possible, and they're not going to do it. Otherwise, the state will default. And I also hope, honestly, that the European Union will do its job in that, limiting the possibilities that the government has. And that's not because I want Italy's sovereignty to diminish, but because the policies, if you let these guys do whatever they want, they're going to ruin the state. And I don't even know if that's what they want, but what they promised to get elected, of course.